VHS Files contains spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's showtime, showtime.
Welcome to the VHS Files Podcast with Jenny Lou,
So what do you want to do tonight?
Jason,
What about pizza and movie night?
Eric,
I want to rent a movie.
and Josh.
I want to go to a good video store so I can get a good movie.
And this is the movie of the week.
Let's get this pizza movie night started.
Hola, and welcome back to the VHS Files Podcast. How are we all doing?
Doing great, Josh.
I'm alive.
Si, senor.
Is Jenny alive? I think she's maybe. She did. Check her pulse. She might not be alive.
I'm alive.
Jenny is very much alive. However, she is living with a hurt back at the moment, so she's very relaxed as we talk about tonight's movie of the week.
Yeah.
You need more tequila, Jenny. More tequila. Don't eat the worm, or do you want to eat the worm?
All right, Jason, you're getting a little too close to the border down there, I think, eh?
Dude, I live in Texas. How you can't get much closer, dude. Hello.
We should throw a video up on our Instagram or something of Jason when he got on video for this podcast today. It was pretty funny.
I was dressed for the occasion, man. I mean, shoot. I remember when I first moved from Texas to Florida, everybody's like, "Are you Mexican?" Because of the black hair, and I was pretty tan back then, and everything's like, "No, I'm actually not. I'm just Texan, not."
No, I'm actually the
Mexican."
guy from the back from the NSYNC, but people get confused all the time.
I'm Chris Kirkpatrick. Just as it goes back for years since I've known Josh. We used to play show in the band I was in, and his band would play before or after us, and he would say, "Chris, I love you," from the back of the room. So
If you want to hear more about that and some of the how we interacted with each other when we were younger, you can go back and listen to our listener questions episodes. We talk a little bit about our background there. So
just a little bit.
But as for now, we're going to get to
The movie of the week.
In 1957, Ricardo Valenzuela had his family, his talent, and a dream.
Rock and roll.
Come on, baby, just rock.
Look at my Richie. He's shining like a star.
I really dig your music, and I'd like to record it.
Oh, Richie, I'm so happy.
By 17,
Your professional name? Richie Valens.
he was a star,
I love you, Donna. You know, I'm still gonna marry you one of these days.
with 3 hits on the charts.
Holly is lining up a plane to fly us on to Fargo tonight.
Hey, come on, let's go.
But one tragic night in 1959, his star fell.
Not Richie.
This summer, it rises again. Columbia Pictures presents La Bamba.
La Bamba, directed by Luis Valdez. Not a very well-known director, I don't believe. Before La Bamba, he had directed a movie version of a musical called Zoot Suit, and then after La Bamba would do the TV movie The Cisco Kid. He's a voice actor. I believe he did a voice in the Pixar movie Coco recently. So that's kind of where he is in the Hollywood phase.
Probably worth mentioning that he's acknowledged as the founder of modern Chicano theater and film, and he was born a migrant farm worker. So similar beginnings to
Richie Valens.
Richie Valens as
Interesting.
well. So,
Which makes him perfect for this movie here.
yeah.
So, La Bamba came out July 24th, 1987. We got another 1987 movie on our hands today.
We love this year.
La Bamba, budget of $6.5 million. Did anybody do their homework? What was the box office?
I swear to God, I'm the teacher's pet with this shit. Come on, guys.
I mean, Jenny can see it. She's just not going to read
Yeah.
Okay. It was 54.2 million on a 6.5. That's a pretty hefty haul for a little documentary about a musician that not too many people knew, but did back in the day.
Correction, biopic, not documentary.
And this is our first biopic.
Yeah, biopic. Sorry.
Right?
Yeah, this is our first biopic we're talking about here on the VHS
Except
Files.
for RoboCop. Forgot.
Yeah, that is the true history of Detroit. Right there.
Or Rob Lobocop.
Rob Lobocop. Literally.
Check out our RoboCop episode for that reference. We have talked about 1987 quite a bit in recent time, and even before that in our earlier episodes. So we've talked quite a bit about this time. I'm actually, last week when we talked about RoboCop, I brought up La Bamba because it came out around the same time. But yeah, you brought up, Eric, that this is our first biopic on here, and this is kind of right where the 80s were getting with biopics about musicians and everything. So this was joining the ranks of Sid and Nancy, and things of that nature. Coal Miner's Daughter, some of the ones before this one. But let's go ahead and, Eric, what do you have for us this week about 1987?
We're sending you back in time.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Well, Josh, let's take a look at music in 1987.
Fitting enough.
Yeah.
I love it.
U2 releases The Joshua Tree, an album that would lead them to such superstardom that Apple would later force their music to download on all of our phones.
I hate that freaking.
Oh, God.
Make it go away.
Hey, guys, what do you call a Christmas wreath made of $100 bills?
What, Eric?
Aretha Franklin's. Speaking of which, Aretha Franklin becomes the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987.
I didn't meet, but I have seen Aretha Franklin in the flesh. She was standing 5 feet away from me. I shit you not.
That is amazing.
In a McDonald's off a highway exit in Atlanta.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Don't worry, guys. We're halfway there. Which reminds me that Bon Jovi's "Livin' on a Prayer" was the biggest song in the world in 1987.
Wow.
Bryan Adams' "Heat of the Night" becomes the first single to be commercially released on cassette. Cassette singles then became known as cassingles. I've never heard that in my life.
Did they?
I've never heard
that term at all.
That's what the internet told me.
Internet's wrong.
Cassettes remind me of how Jason treats his underwear. There's a side A and a side B.
Yes. Hey, and then when you turn them inside out, you can use each leg hole, and you can go about 3 or 4 days. Come on, man. And
finally, this band would become the first act to be censored by American Bandstand. Hit it, Josh.
Yes, y'all. And you don't stop. Keep it on. It's rocking the place. See, hey, I got nothing to prove. Pay attention, my intention is to boss the move. I drink cards and cans and bottles and sections. Between the turntables, keep the vodka and the mix.
Beasties.
Yes. And of course, that album is from '86, but they didn't have an album in '87, and I had to pick the closest thing.
Oh.
hey, you got to make it work, dude. I mean, how many times can we make you do something about the year 1987? Dude, you're eventually going to run out of world news, music news, movie news, whatever news, and bad 80s jokes. Yeah, there's only so many.
Well, thanks for taking us back in time, Eric. Now let's talk a little bit about La Bamba and how we all kind of experienced this movie. I'm going to start with Eric.
Yeah, I remember watching this for the first time. It was 2 days ago. And I have to admit, I knew that Buddy Holly died in a plane crash, and I didn't make the connection here. Although they make it pretty clear, like right off the bat, where it's heading. But then I go, and then Buddy Holly shows up, and I go, wait a minute! Like I didn't even realize it was the same plane. Like I don't know. But
wait a minute, I see where this is going.
It was a fun watch. I enjoyed it, and there's not much to talk about really. I just saw it. What about you guys? You guys watched this as kids or?
Oh, it was a regular for me, and I know Jason watched it quite a bit as a kid as well. We'll talk about that here in a minute. I'll go to Jenny because I don't know if it was a childhood movie or something later. But
this was definitely a childhood movie for me. Jason called it like a guy who wasn't very well known was in a plane crash. That wasn't the way that it was presented to me in my house.
Right.
Like, my dad loves this movie, loves American Pie. He was 11 or 12 when this happened. So he vividly remembers the day the music died.
Yeah.
So this, I mean, I've seen this movie probably 30 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for anybody who hasn't seen the movie that we're talking about tonight, I mean, I imagine the majority of the people who listen to our show probably have seen a lot of the movies we talk about. But if you haven't, this is a movie kind of sort of talking about 1/3 of the day the music died. It's the day the Big Bopper, Richie Valens, and Buddy Holly, you know, that's what that song's based on, is when they got in a plane crash and perished. And Richie Valens was a very young artist at the time. He was only 17. So it's a very heartbreaking story, and it's got a very, you know, concrete place in pop culture at this point. So this movie was, even when I was watching it as a kid, I kind of felt the statement of it at that time. I actually saw this movie before I'd even heard the song American Pie. So this was more of a big deal to me than you know, I knew more about Richie Valens than I did about Buddy Holly or the Big Bopper. So, you know, it was one of those movies as a kid. I think this is one of the first instances where there was a movie where the center of it was a musical artist, got me really into wanting to get into music and play music. And, you know, it's one of those first movies that I remember really grabbing me in that way and like making me think that being a musician would be really cool.
And you love musician movies.
I do.
I mean, knowing you, I know that you love movies.
And I have my problems with them, which I've mentioned on one of our past episodes, and we'll
Right.
probably get into that a little bit on this one as well. But yes, I mean, I can kind of look past some things because I am very engulfed in like learning about musicians and watching their stories and things like that. So, and I think Jason's probably along the same lines there. But Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, this movie, I did see this in a theater. This is a one that my mom did take me to see in a theater because my mom had these records growing up. I mean, I grew up like many times. I'm here in the backwoods of Texas. I was force-fed country music, but my mom did have her old rock and roll records. We had Buddy Holly. He's from Texas. The Big Bopper is actually from 50 miles from where I'm living right now. He's from Port Arthur, Texas. So he was a big thing around. Even Buddy Holly. I mean, if you're from Texas, like ZZ Top, that's your thing. But you know, that's how I grew up with it. Richie Valens to me was almost an unknown because Buddy Holly and Big Bopper outshined him, especially here in Texas. I mean, because of who they were. But I knew who that was because my mom did have the records. I remember listening to Donna and a couple of the other songs. And I mean, I remember hearing La Bamba, I think a couple times as a kid, but really after the movie, and then Los Lobos they remade it. But I mean, this movie sentimentally hits me in a lot of ways. I can't tell you how many times I've watched it on VHS, DVD, or when it comes on TV. I related a lot to Richie, kind of like Josh. I mean, this is a movie I saw like a young kid, and I wanted to play guitar. I mean, I had an uncle who played guitar. I wanted to learn how to play guitar, and then I saw this. And then Richie's connection with his mother of like he wanted to do it for his mom to give her the better things, and that's how I was, because at this time there was a lot of stuff going on in my household that was not fun, and I wanted to do that for my mom. So I had that connection, but I also could relate to Bob. I had a lot in common with Bob's situation too, that we'll talk about shortly. So this movie, it hits me in a pretty deep personal level in some aspects of this movie. Most of the times I'm either teary-eyed or I have cried watching this movie. I mean, you know, I might be funny and all this other stupid shit. I'm from Texas, but damn, this movie hits me hard when I watch it. So,
and to be honest, I was a little worried going into this because I hadn't seen La Bamba in quite some time, but I was very anxious. I knew it was a movie I wanted to talk about on this show because of the impact it had on me when I was younger, and kind of, I mean, it's a very small contributor to who I am today, I think, because of how it affected me when I saw it, and even the story. Like, but this is one of those this is one of those movies where it was like, saw this movie and like begged mom, like, Mom, I want Richie Valens tapes. Like, my mom, I made my mom go buy me a Richie Valens cassette tape, so I could listen to the music and whatnot, because it just
single.
Yeah, I was about to say I had a single for La Bamba.
I did not have a single. It wasn't even. She didn't even get me the La Bamba soundtrack. It was actually a tape of Richie Valens, and I think this is really one of the first times I saw a movie that kind of depicted domestic abuse,
sexual abuse,
in a way that was a little familiar to me. Like, I saw Bob a lot in my own life, and that kind of helped ground the movie for me in a way, I think. And then you throw the music in there, and how Richie is trying to do this to be better, and he wants something more than what he grew up with, and things like that. So I got a lot of inspiration, and that's probably because I saw a lot of like kind of real life stuff in this movie that I had never really seen before. But I'm anxious to hear for like Eric and Jenny, who probably don't have that same kind of impression for this movie. Like, Eric, kick us off. Like, what'd you think of La Bamba, watching it now, many years later?
It will be 34 because I was 10 when it came out. So I'll be 44 this year.
So now that we've determined that I didn't graduate high school, Eric, what'd you think of the movie?
I liked it. There's some weird things about, I think some of they're like structural things for me that don't quite work flowing wise, just tonally. But it looks good. I really like all the performances. I think the guy that plays Bob, Asai Morales, am I saying that right?
Yeah, I was writing his name down for this, and I have no idea how to pronounce it.
I think it's Isai.
Yeah. Isai Morales.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's what Eric, I heard you, Eric. You said that. I got you.
No, I thought he was fantastic. I mean, really, all the leads are really great.
Yeah.
And it should be noted that this is the first movie that Lou Diamond Phillips did. This is an introduction to him. I found that kind of weird watching the Blu-ray and watching the cast as they came up. Is, Richie Valens is the star of this movie. Lou Diamond Phillips portrays him, yet he is way down the cast line because there's an introducing Lou Diamond Phillips tag for him in the cast.
And he's great in it.
Yeah, I mean, I have some issues with his performance that we'll probably get to. But
is it guitar related?
No, it's not guitar related. I'm going to try and be very held back on that sort of thing, but
it's hard for me and Josh to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we can blatantly tell when people aren't actually doing things like that, and it doesn't bother me too much in this one. I think he gives a good performance in that regard.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go ahead and touch on it. I don't think his fake singing is all that great in this.
Yeah, it's a little off.
And we'll go ahead and get into it because, I mean, he's singing throughout this entire movie. I don't know if it was an artistic choice by Lou Diamond Phillips. I don't know very much about the real Richie Valens, so I don't know how much he's really kind of playing into how Richie Valens sang. Like, you get these actors that will get method, and Joaquin Phoenix for Johnny Cash and all that, who will really just try to mimic everything. So I don't know if Richie Valens actually smiled all the time while he sang, but when Lou Diamond Phillips does it in this movie, it makes me want to cringe. Like,
wow. All your blubbering about how much you love this movie, and then you just shit all over the star.
Yeah, dude, come on, man. I'm out of here. Turn my mic off. I'm out.
I like his energy. I like that he's smiling and having a good time. I mean, I don't. There's not a ton of Richie Valens footage that I could find on the internet. I watched a couple things. They're so potato quality that it's really hard to tell. I mean, I think Lou Diamond Phillips is, kind of channeling some Elvis in there, and some of those kind of moves and stuff. I don't know. I mean, it didn't bother me. I'll just say that.
It sort of grated on me a little bit watching it this time.
Although I will say when I mentioned the tone stuff, there's just a very quick change to him being sick, right at the end, and it's just he's so happy and positive through the majority of the film, and it's just so abrupt.
Yeah, but it's a time jump.
I know it's a time jump. It's just it's a weird. I mean, the death being abrupt makes total sense because it was an abrupt death.
Right.
But that scene before it was weird. But
yeah, I mean, well, Jason, I want you to put your stuff out there a little bit and sort of talk about some of your favorite stuff from this movie, or at least getting into the movie a little bit. I forgot it opened with this big plane crash over a school. Like I forgot all about that.
And what I found out, that's actually, you know, because in Hollywood, they take a little artistic freedom to build drama for things, you know, we're later going to find out how he died. But this actually happened, and this is a real life thing, that it was two planes had collided or had an accident and fell onto like a schoolyard and killed some kids and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That actually happened. And he was supposed to be at school that day, but he was at his grandfather's funeral. So
that's insane, first of all. And yeah, I mean, that's like stranger than fiction, because you know, if you're writing a movie and you go, oh, this guy's been afraid of flying his whole life and he's going to end up dying at the end of the movie.
Well, you you also got to kind of wonder if they took artistic freedom with that, is that happened to him and then he did die the way he did they kind of just over exaggerate his fear of flying through the whole movie?
That's what I was going to touch on.
Yeah, they might have over exaggerated that a little.
I did say that I love the look of this movie, but I don't like the look of that dream sequence.
Yeah, the flashbacks are pretty grainy.
They're like,
I think that's how they're supposed to be. Like a
yes, it's a creative choice to make them snowy and look kind of washed out, you know. But it looks bad. I don't like the way it looks.
I mean,
but
yeah,
it really does sort of beat you over the head with the plane thing.
Well, we watched it on the Twilight Time limited edition run that came out a couple years ago, and it was
4K?
a really nice transfer.
4K? 4K? Is it 4K?
No, it was not 4K. It was Blu-ray.
I had to watch it on HBO Max, man. I suck. I'm down here. Poverty level of movies here. You know.
Well, for anybody who's a movie collector and knows about Twilight Time releases, those are very difficult to get, and I was able to get one of these, so I have to brag a little bit about this one. Sorry, Eric.
Gosh, so pretentious.
Rub it in. Put the salt in the wound, Eric.
Yeah, the dream sequences aren't the greatest thing here, but I did forget that they were part of the movie.
They must be in California.
They are.
He says he's never been to
They're
Mexico
in Northern
before.
California at the beginning and Southern California later.
That's one thing I really love that this movie continues to go back to, is how everybody is like speaking Spanish to him or talking about Mexican traditions and all that stuff. And at one point he even says, he's like, man, I've never even been to Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he can't speak Spanish.
Can't speak Spanish at all.
Yeah, I will say though, I want whatever his mom's cooking there in the beginning.
Oh, dude,
looks delicious.
It looks
on the farm or whatever.
Good.
Oh my god, it looks so good, dude.
All right, moving on with the movie, but the food did look delicious, and now I want to go eat more of tacos. So let's get this movie done. So.
This might be another instance of a movie that scarred me, because something about that scene when Bob's riding up and he's like comes real close to riding over a rattlesnake in the road.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being freaked out as a kid about a rattlesnake, and I think that's kind of part of where where my fear of rattlesnakes comes from.
Well, the fact that they're freaking rattlesnakes, dude. Hello.
Yeah, they'll bite you and kill you. That's kind of another thing too. But
yeah, and we don't get enough of them through the whole damn movie, so they show up everywhere. But
yeah,
but it's a peach plant. I think it's a peach plantation.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're doing peaches. It took me a while. I thought it was citrus a few times, I guess, as a kid, but then I realized it was a peach because they're throwing the whole pit away.
I think it's just a farm. It's not a plantation.
I'll tell you what I can relate to is, I mean, I've never had a brother. I can only imagine it would be worse. But when he likes Rosie, clearly,
yeah,
and his brother swoops in and takes her, takes her gut punch.
Yeah.
I've liked girls before and had like friends,
right,
end up in relationships with the girl I like, and that's like, it kills you, and then it's
imagine your older brother.
Now, imagine your brother who you like look up to,
right,
and the way that goes after that, how poorly that goes for her, and you
kind of start to get an ill feeling about Bob right from the bat with his whole makeout session with Rosie. And
Bob is a dick.
Yeah, he's kind of.
Bob is a rapist.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not pretty much. I mean, he kicks a door in and
he does.
Takes what he wants. I mean,
well, I mean, not at this point. He is a full-blown rapist later. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he seems. Is she arguing with him when they're? I mean, I think she's kind of being lustful for him here.
Oh no,
but
she was okay.
Oh, in the beginning,
yes.
I still feel like he was like forcing it, and she probably didn't want to go as fast as she did.
Yeah.
But this was another instance where I thought that Elizabeth Pena, who plays Rosie, like I thought that actress was gorgeous when I was 8 years old. Like,
me too. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't seen this, but I've seen her in other things, and she's beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the two kids on the water tower thought she looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
They were looking at them all showering out there. The two little like 9-10-year-old boys up there watching her take a shower, but they were also watching Richie take a shower too.
Well, that was another thing that struck me watching it this time is just how like you can actually. There's a glimpse of nudity in that scene there. It's very dark in certain places. Like the movie is a lot darker than I remember it being watching it when I was younger.
But yeah, and it's right after this. We just get Richie's on a farm. We know he's Richie, and then we see him. He's playing guitar for all the workers in the evening. After that, so he's obviously got some kind of talent, and he's hanging out because I think he was running around with his guitar earlier with Bob.
Yeah.
This kid has
Oh, and he slams that thing on the ground.
2
dude.
guitars, and he's a farm worker.
And he sleeps with him.
And he sleeps with him. Where's the hole? That's what I think Bob says. Where's the hole? I was like, really, Bob? Come on. Well, we basically know where his main thoughts are through the whole movie.
He's a class act right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I love that little short neck guitar he's got too.
Yeah.
Dude.
And those are vintage harmony guitars that he has in there too, and those are nice. Like they used to be the old Sears brand guitars that you go order out of the Sears catalogs and stuff. And
hey, can you guys think of another 80s movie set in the 50s with a guy playing a small guitar and fake singing?
Gee, let me go back in time and
hit the button. We're going back in time.
But I mean, we get exactly who Bob is out of this introduction to him. I mean, he seems like he's the hero coming to rescue them from doing all this, farm work and taking them into the city and he's bought a house apparently that he's taking
shack.
Yeah, it's not much of a house. It's more like a tool shed with windows.
But it's to upgrade from the farm. I mean, they were having a shower outside. Now they have indoor plumbing.
Well, Bob wants to be the hero.
Yeah, he does.
Right.
And that's a big part of, his arc in this is, he's not the hero.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Richie clearly loves him.
Right. I mean, he looks up to him. He's got that brotherly connection with him, but he sees the flaws in him. He knows that he's not good news, but, they have that brotherly bond that keeps them, always wanting to stick up for one another. It ultimately gets the better of us later, but we touched on the domestic abuse in this and how realistic it was, especially like seeing some of these kind of things firsthand, like the conveyance of how much of a violent and unstable person Bob is translated here very well. And you brought up the actor, Esai Morales. He is amazing in this movie to me. Like I
think he does some of the best dramatic acting in the whole movie.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about range. He goes all over the place in this movie.
He really goes for it.
Happy, sad, mad, drunk,
and
high,
he actually sells. Yeah, he sells being likable too. Like there's times where he's genuinely likable in this movie, even though he's an asshole.
Right.
There's times. I think it also shows, Josh. You're talking about the domestic violence stuff, and it also does a good job of showing how families will tolerate other family members doing stuff like that.
Right.
Like the scene where the mom says, like, it's not your business, like stay out of it.
Yep.
The fact that she loves her son, even though, what he's doing is wrong. She doesn't maybe do all that she could do. I mean, she steps in later, but, people get away with stuff in family circles because they're family, and you know, if this was just some rando, they would have kicked him to the curb.
Right.
Yeah.
But they keep him around for years and years because
he's family.
They're family. And, you know, that's how a lot of these dysfunctional situations keep going for years and years and years. You know?
Yeah.
All right. See, now when I first saw this movie, you don't get a comprehension of how old people are and everything. But watching it this time, I did not realize he was playing a 17-year-old. And at the time, I think Lou Diamond Phillips was like 25.
Yeah.
Everybody's 30 in this movie.
Yeah, everybody's 30. But I was just like, and then he meets her. But the fact he's carrying around a guitar in his school all day long.
Well, I mean, I wanted to bring this up. There were people in school when I went to school that like carried weird, like kids that would bring guitars to school. And
I carried a skateboard because I skateboarded to school and from school.
Yeah.
But not a guitar.
You could say like he wanted it with him always. What if he's afraid if he leaves it, Bob will take it and pawn it?
I mean, that's a very good point. Yeah.
But he loves his brother, but he knows at any given time shit is going to go missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, he's connected, you know, with, he even says it before Bob was around, like he carries the guitar everywhere. I mean, yeah, you make a good point. It's definitely a valid observation.
It's his most valued possession.
Yeah, maybe
so
as a young, at a younger age that happened, that Bob did that to some of his stuff, or Bob's always had anger issues and broke his stuff.
Right.
And he's scared that's going to happen to his most prized possession, which is his guitar, because he has dreams of pure rock and roll.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what he's got his eyes set to the sky. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel like Lou Diamond Phillips' portrayal here comes off pretty cocky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he states it from the get-go. And I mean, you know, being someone who's played music in front of people, like, you've really got to have an ego to kind of put yourself out there like he does in this. Like,
oh, dude, major ego.
And that's
yeah, a couple of knocks here on your point, like when he tries out for the Silhouettes. Yeah. As soon as he plugs that old amp in, he starts singing and it sounds like somebody just kicked on the radio.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing. And it's just like, wow, he's fucking good. You know, he's like,
I mean, he's got the chops as far as the guitar. I mean, I guess that's what they're saying. I mean, he's been playing for a long time.
Right.
Well, just the singing, everything. Yeah. He just, I don't know. It doesn't show a whole lot of growth. It's like he's amazing from the very beginning of the film.
Right.
Every time he starts playing music, he's perfect, you know. Also, I don't feel like they really establish why he likes Donna so much.
I think
love
it's just
at first sight.
Yeah, just the physical attraction.
She's the new girl. He's just got his eyes set on her.
But I mean, after he hits it big and they break up, and he's got a million girls that look just like her chasing him all over the place. What's special about Donna? I want, as a viewer, to see what's special. I'm not saying Donna's not special.
She's a cutie pie.
I'm saying show me why she's special.
It's the intangible part that you can't touch, you can't describe it or anything. It just happens. It's the universe that fucking hits you with a lightning bolt. Bam, that's the one you're going to be with, and I'm going to marry her. She's mine.
I mean, why is Jennifer so special in Back to the Future? We don't really know.
Yeah, it's just you have that.
At least Jennifer and Marty have like a snappy dialogue together. They clearly know each other really well, and you know, they kind of
they probably grew up.
They have like a history, and they talk to, you know what I mean. I don't know, that I just feel like this is we don't see much other than them meeting and then them breaking up.
It's
they kind do of like a steamy makeout session in there.
Yeah,
right.
But
it just goes on for so long.
Yeah, because he's been on the road and he's getting famous, and now she's dating a guy that's on the radio.
I want to talk about him trying out for the Silhouettes.
And Rudy.
Man, like, okay, the tryout scene is one thing, but when he actually plays the garage party.
Oh, so bad.
That guy's singing is so passionate.
Salina, don't you know I care? Salina, don't you know I love you?
But he is going for it hardcore. And like, screaming into the microphone and whatnot. Jenny and I looked at each other and were laughing uncontrollably when this guy was singing.
It's pretty funny. It's like an American Idol. Tryout.
I like that part. Charlene, don't you know I care? He's trying to do like his Howlin' Wolf singing with a little bit of just modern rock and roll in there, and I'm like, dude, this is horrible. And not only that, Rudy's an egotistical asshole. We find that out later.
We find that out later. I really love that his mom and the family are really behind him 100% though.
Oh, his mom is great.
Yeah.
Dude, his mom is great. Talk about Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love her.
Great movie mom.
Ultimate mom. Ultimate mom. I like how she said, you don't know who they're messing with. My grandpa was like whatever Yaqui Indian or something, and she's freaking slamming the gears on the car to drive away, dude. I was like, damn, that's awesome.
I love that when it comes to Richie, she is no holds barred and she is passionate about it. I love the way they portray her in this. She apparently did hang out a lot with Richie Valens' real mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe during filming, Lou Diamond Phillips was getting really close with the Valenzuelas. And I think at one point, his mom actually was just like started calling him Richie because he was like him so much.
Yeah, I do remember there was a thing
really
where she was actually asking Lou Diamond Phillips not to do the airplane scene.
Yeah.
Because they had gotten so attached to him, and it was just, I guess, didn't want nothing to happen to him, and they'd just become so attached to him being Richie.
Yeah.
So that's craziness, man.
But even like, we talk about his mom, I love that Bob is also behind him, even though like I think Bob's intentions are good. It's just his execution is off because of his problems. But I like the whole thing about them getting Richie his own little place to play. One of my favorite parts is when they're making the flyers for him and Bob speaks up. These look like shit. My dog can draw better than this.
And it's cool that Bob actually can draw better than that.
He's
got some artistic ability there. And it's sad when he, I mean, I don't know the true history of Bob. Maybe he does end up doing some art, professionally or something. But
yeah.
I was rooting for him to, he gets his drafting table. Nobody seems to care, but
yeah.
He's so obsessed with competing with Richie. It's like, at least in this movie,
right.
That he can't, if he's not going to be a world famous illustrator, then nothing will be good enough. Although there is that one scene where they really lean into it heavy here, where the mom's like, Richie, you're the best, like in front of Bob, and Bob's just like,
right. Now I wanted to touch on the scene where they get where his mom, like she said, she's gonna get him his own show. She goes to the bar to talk to the owner, Howard. And he's saying, hey, their dad drank themselves to death here at your bar. You're going to let my son play on your stage. And it's a country music bar.
Yeah.
And they let him on stage. And, of course, he busts out some Buddy Holly. And, being where they're, I guess, he's more well known. But the fact that his brother's back here trying to play the drums. My
that was
God.
fun watching him count it off. He was counting and trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he's like the little monkey trying to play drums. But he wins over the crowd. These are country music people, they're all good old boys in there, and there is a Mexican kid on stage singing in a country place, and he's playing rock and roll, and he wins them over.
Yeah, I mean, those are
power rock and roll, people, right there.
Those are the beats that these biopics hit that I have issues with. Is because and I know they have to do it to move the story and the movie along, but I know, like, naturally in real life, there is a lot more time and progression that comes with that kind of stuff. And
sure, a lot of bad shows, a lot of medium good shows, a lot of,
right. I mean, I have played my fair share of shitty shows, and like, they don't all just go off without a hitch like they do in these movies.
Bad guitar cables, broken strings.
Yeah, I mean,
PA don't work.
that thing you do does it really well in there when it shows them have a bad show in there. So, but that's another movie. But those are the things that, as a musician and going through what we have gone through as musicians, like, that like this is complete bullshit. But right now is a good spot to talk about the cast.
Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her. Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name? That guy who was in that movie that was out last year.
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
All right. So, Lou Diamond Phillips, we've already mentioned. Isai Morales, we've mentioned. Is that Acai Berry?
I think you're overpronouncing it.
I think he's going a little.
Isai Morales.
Yes, correct.
Is it
Is
it Miles Morales?
That's, every time I see the name Morales now, that's all I think about.
Spider-Man, dude. That's all you can think about. We're all nerds.
We spoke about Richie's mom, Rosanna DeSoto, and Elizabeth Pena. We talked about her. One that I wanted to bring up here. I mean, we've got one. He's not famous. But I wrote down Joe Pantoliano. This is going to be a bad episode for pronouncing names.
Pantoliano.
Pantoliano.
That guy.
Joey Pants is too famous.
Joey Pants.
I think he's been in a lot of damn.
Yes,
A
he
lot
has.
of stuff.
I don't think he would
Listen,
actually qualify for Almost Famous.
I've got a couple. I'm gonna go with Sam Anderson,
I got him.
Donna's dad.
Donna's dad,
in a lot of television.
No, wait.
Just a shitload of
you bring him up. I wanted to ask Jenny. Do you know? Have you figured
No.
out where you know him from? Lost. He was Bernard in Lost. Now you know.
Okay.
I remember him from Growing Pains.
He's been in a ton of television. He was the principal in Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
He was in Water for Elephants.
He was in The Stand as a character.
Your mama sure does care about your schooling, son.
Oh my God.
Oh Lord. And then also I'll throw in Noble Willingham, the bar owner.
Yeah, Howard.
Yep.
He was in Walker, Texas Ranger, City Slickers,
Good
Morning Vietnam, Ace Ventura.
But what got
He's been in a lot
me
of stuff.
wanting to put him on my list is the Lost Boy Scout, or the Last Boy Scout.
Yep,
The
he's a
Lost
team
Boys.
owner, isn't he?
Scout.
The Lost Boy Scout.
Yeah, the Lost Boy.
Yeah, the Last Boy Scout. Yeah, he's the team owner.
He's the team owner.
Well, I think his name's Shirley.
Yeah. Don't call me Shirley.
But yeah, I wrote his name down as well. Now, this movie has another tie to last week's movie. Does anybody know what it is? This movie has something in common with RoboCop.
Does it have Brian Setzer in it?
No. And it doesn't have Eddie Van Halen in it either.
Yes, Eric.
I
don't know.
The guy that Bob is running drugs for, the big dude.
Oh, the big
Oh
guy?
yeah, he's the guy from the market store.
He's the
yeah.
guy in the convenience store.
Fuck
with
me.
Yeah, he's that guy. I saw his face and I was
man.
like, that dude looks so familiar. What the hell do I know him from?
Oh my God.
And when I got to looking at it, I was like, holy shit, he was in RoboCop.
I love his character's name for this. It's Mexican Ed.
Yeah, Mexican
That's
Ed.
his name, Mexican Ed.
Jeez.
So when we get the recast, I have the perfect person to replace him with.
Well, does anybody have any other Almost Famous? Because that's all I've got.
Did we? Y'all pretty much named the ones I had. So.
I mean, you got Brian Setzer in there, but that dude's a star in the music world.
Yeah, that's true. I would have to go with probably the Noble Willingham, or I mean, Isai Morales. You could. I mean, he's not over the top, but
he's not over the top.
He's been in some stuff.
He's in like NCIS or something, like a pretty big TV show, I think.
Yeah, Ozark.
Oh yeah, Ozark. Yeah, that's a big TV show.
He's also done some stuff in the Titans TV show.
Yeah.
He's at that. He was in Bad Boys. He played the role in. Remember the movie The Principal?
Oh, dude.
Yeah, he was.
That's
in
one
that.
we got to talk about on.
Dude,
here.
I love The Principal, man. That's good stuff, right
Jim
there.
Belushi,
Jim
right?
Belushi and Louis Gossett Jr.
Yep.
That's some good stuff right there. So, but I don't know. Who would we think? Who are we gonna go with?
I'm going with the guy from RoboCop.
Oh my God.
Just because he was in RoboCop.
I'm going Noble Willingham.
I think I'll go with that.
All right, well, I'll go with Sam Anderson.
I like.
He's been playing the old cowboy for like
Ever.
a million
Yeah.
years.
Ever.
Yeah.
He was definitely probably other than Donna's dad, who I don't think is as famous as that guy. He's the guy when they went into the bar and I saw him, I was like, that guy. So yeah, I would go with him over Donna's dad. So I changed mine. But recasting, I want to go first this week.
Okay.
I only have one, and when I saw her, there was no way I could not say this, but I would recast Donna with
Don't say
Elizabeth Moss.
Oh, that was mine.
We've been watching The Handmaid's Tale, and I was like, God damn, she looks just like her.
Yeah.
Dude, totally.
She does.
Kayla said the same thing before I even said it. Yeah, definitely.
So that was mine and Eric's. Did you have one, Jenny?
I don't have one.
No?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Jason, take us through your recast.
Well, I didn't do everybody, and it's funny. When I started out doing the recast, it became a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Fitting, I guess.
But not all of them have been in Rodriguez movies. But I went with Connie, the mom. I had two. If it was modern, Sofia Vergara or
Vergara.
Vergara, however you pronounce her name. One of those two.
This
all I know
is going to be mispronunciation.
All I know is hotness and hotness. That's all I know them both by. So, but yeah, either one of the two of them.
I'm a Selma Hayek guy myself.
Oh, I love Selma Hayek. But Rosie,
This is such an enlightened conversation right now.
Rosie, I had Selena Gomez.
That works.
Yes. See. Just because it's funny you brought up that thing you do, I said Bob Kay would have to be Tom Hanks because he signs everybody. So, while it plays Bob Kous, however, the guy that signs Richie, that we're gonna get to. But when I got down to Richie and Bob, man, it was hard. So I was just trying to fit people into their role of ethnicity. And then I found a couple that fit because I love the TV show. But I was gonna go with Bob as Tyler Posey.
Okay.
Teen Wolf. Tyler Posey.
I don't know who Tyler Posey is.
You don't know who Tyler Posey is? Oh my God.
Not everybody's crazy for wolves like you are, Wolfman.
Dude, he's been in a bunch of stuff. So, but in Richie Valens, I was gonna go as I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've seen him. He was also on Teen Wolf, but he's on a Netflix show called On My Block. But Diego Tinoco.
Don't know who that is either.
But the reason I thought of them is I actually went to look for pictures of Richie Valens.
Yeah.
And it's just, and this kid looks a lot like him. And then looking back at him, I remember seeing him in Teen Wolf. He had a bit part in Teen Wolf. And I was like, that kid could talk. But I also liked it because Lou Diamond Phillips was a nobody.
Right.
And that movie kind of took him off. And that's what I was kind of going for. Maybe actors that not a lot of people knew. And then that would help them move on to the next level. So, but yeah. Mexican Ed, come on. You got to know a burly, nasty biker Mexican guy. Who did I cast, Josh?
I don't know because I was racking my brain. To figure out who I would cast as him, and I couldn't come up with anything.
Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo would have to be Mexican Ed.
Wow.
Like I said, it was a Robert Rodriguez movie at the beginning. So, but that's who I had this week. I couldn't think of anything cool because I love this movie, so it was kind of hard for me to want to replace him and be funny about it because I love the movie as a kid. So.
It's funny you bring that up, and we did mention That Thing You Do. There's a lot of stuff I saw in this that made me think of That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Hanks did draw from this for inspiration. There are a couple of scenes that are like on the nose. Like you've got the guy who signs them in that, and you got Bob Keane in this. Like there's some very good, very close parallels to those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got differing opinions?
No, I just think, how That Thing You Do took cues from this movie, but That Thing You Do is a way better movie.
Well, we're not talking about That Thing You Do, so unfortunately.
I love That Thing You Do, but this movie holds
more. We'll get to that one at some point. Let's talk about Richie's performance in this little hall that they rent for him.
At the Legion Hall.
What ensues here. I like that, again, we've got the cockiness of Richie here, like, sort of being like, well, this is what we're going to do, and band sides with me. Like, again, like, I find Richie to be very cocky, and I wonder how much of that is just made up for the movie, and if Richie Valens was really like that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, he was hanging out with the family. Maybe they were telling him, hey, he had a little bit of cockiness to him. He had a chip on his shoulder, and he knew what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
It could have been that way. But Rudy's an ass anyway, so I was glad to see him go. I don't mind him being a dick.
Well, yeah, I definitely didn't need any more of his passionate Charlena singing.
Charlena. Eric, we need your best impression of Rudy. Can you give it to us?
No.
What the hell?
No, I can't do it.
All right. Well,
sorry.
Eric, you're fired.
Hey, step into my office.
And, like most of Bob's issues here, he's drunk. I mean, typically they portray him as most of his issues coming from his alcoholism. Yeah. So he comes in, obviously, spotlight's on his brother, and doesn't take long for things to get rowdy.
Well, we've passed it at this point, but I do want to bring it up since we're talking about Bob's problems, and there are many. The scene where he gets physical with Rosie, and then she tells him she's pregnant, and his response to that is
fucking horrible.
Oh my God, dude! Like, it is terrible. You're not my first,
won't be
or my last. Like, it just it goes. I won't get into it now, but yeah, I mean, Bob is
Bob's a dick.
Yeah, Bob is a dick.
Like I said,
yeah, I mean, Rosie really gets shit on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, she does kind of run off with Bob, not knowing what she's getting herself into. I'm not faulting her for that, for wanting better for herself. But yeah,
she was
I mean,
a kid.
Yeah, she was a kid. They did establish that. So I'll shut my fucking mouth.
People make bad decisions.
She was led astray.
Right.
Well, because she even says that. She said, this is not who I thought you were, and this and that and all this. You're gone all the time because he's hanging out with his biker buddies. He's obviously running drugs because I mean, he shows up with a kilo taped to him and one strapped to his ball sack. And which
did you notice? Did you notice
that Ed kisses?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you notice that Mexican Ed kisses the one that was resting near his ball sack?
That was some skunky weed. It was right off of his balls.
I mean, it only sat there while he rode his motorcycle from Mexico or something.
Oh my God. Hey, dude, what flavor is this? It's called from under my nuts. It's got a little skink to it. Oh, well.
But even though Bob ruins the night by being drunk and starting a fight in the midst of all of this, we did get, Joey Pants showing up as Bob Keane and seeing their performance. So obviously Richie's generated a bit of a buzz with his playing, and even though this turns out bad for the night, it ultimately gets him recognized. And so Richie's starting to make it big now. So this happens very fast, and with Richie Valens only being 17 when he died, I can only imagine that this probably did happen really fast for him. I can't even imagine how someone of the age of 16 would be feeling. I mean, we've got our kids now that have, Justin Bieber's of the world that have grown up in the spotlight and whatnot, but this was a different time. Especially, we see a lot of this with Richie and Donna and her dad. Like, he was not accepted by a lot of people at this time. And the bar where he's playing the show in front of all these country shit kickers, I think is what Bob calls them. You're going to play what Boney Maroney. You're going to play Boney Maroney for these shit kickers? I like that comment he says as they go in.
It's also funny how Donna's dad is playing records and he's listening to like classical music or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even want to listen to that. I forget what he
calls it. Jungle music.
Jungle music.
Jungle music.
Which
is nice and racist.
Yeah, which growing up in the South, you've heard that term quite a bit growing up around here.
Sure. Yeah. But it's a nice touch that they put him listening to. You get to see him ever so briefly listening to the music that he deems appropriate.
And what really kind of just rubs me the wrong way is how the mom is just like, oh, honey, you know how your father is.
Well, that's how it was back then.
Yeah.
Mom
still is in many cases.
I don't know about your mom. My mom would be like, throwing a chair at him or something. Hey, if my daughter wants to date the guy, he's gonna date the guy. So
I'm not saying my mom's like that. I'm saying there are couples like that,
yeah,
and there are racists like that still.
Mm-hmm.
Now one beat,
but yeah.
Now one beat this does hit is when Bob approaches Richie and tells him that he wants to record. Richie is not prepared for the process, and that beat they hit actually goes pretty close to life, because when he's having to record over and over and over and over again for those takes and whatnot, you got that right. That's how being in the studio is. If you're not hitting your points, then you're going to be recording over and over and over again. And I like that it conveys that. It kind of shows you that Richie is good in one sense, but doesn't really know the business and know how to do it so well. And I think that comes across pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that scene. I mean, everything's come relatively easy for him so far, and it was nice to see him have to kind of struggle with the recording session.
Yeah, because he did the little recording down in the basement with Bob.
Yep.
That was just a real quick one, just to get this stuff going. And then they got the one out in Hollywood. That's where we get the hey, baby, and then the well, over and over and over. And I know Josh can attest this too, of being in the studio and either a guitar part or DJ or keyboard parts or bass parts that Josh has done, but then listening to a singer trying to get it right. Even our singers just growled and screamed into a microphone, but over and over and over and over.
That's worse. I mean, I'm
God.
sure that's harder on the throat than singing in some cases.
You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. It's 3:00 in the morning.
And I like that Richie is frustrated, and he tells Bob, he's like, listen, man, I don't know what's wrong with those takes. That's the way I sing. And I've seen firsthand singers get like this in studios because they're having to do this over and over and over again. But Bob, they make the dialogue there very, very close to life in that regard, because Bob says they've got to be clean takes. We got to be able to edit later. And all of that makes sense. I mean, even in editing a podcast and stuff like that, you got to know when you can make your cuts and when you can splice things together. So that is one aspect of this movie I really do respect, as they went through that path. And I wish more movies would show that side of things.
The struggling of making the perfect album or the perfect song. Because he says it there, he does it 60 takes.
Yeah.
60. That's crazy.
Which that's like if David Fincher was trying to get you to record something, 120 takes.
Or Stanley Kubrick or something.
Right. So this is what I got out of this, and I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit here. So if you guys have anything before this, we can go back to it. But I found it very shocking that as many times as I've seen this movie, the inspiration behind La Bamba came from hearing it played at a whorehouse.
Yeah, Richie goes to Mexico.
He goes to Tijuana.
Why would you let Bob take you anywhere?
Right. I think Bob more or less just sort of told him, hey, we're going somewhere. And he was just, I mean, I don't know. That's in a whole other story. But I found it pretty funny that he's in Mexico. His brother's trying to get him laid. Mm-hmm. And he just has this bright idea to, I want to do a cover of La Bamba.
I like that he tries to kind of highlight his heritage a little bit, even though he's not Mexican.
Yeah.
They kind of whitewash him a little bit with his name change and, stuff like that. And I kind of like that he ends up getting the rattlesnake stuff, which he wears on television. And he plays this folk song as one of his hits. He kind of has to fight for it. We get a little scene of him kind of fighting for it, but, it's a cool thing that he's trying to shed some light on that and bring some attention to where his heritage is from.
Again, not seeing it in a while, I was kind of confused because, he's pining over Donna this whole time. And I was like, he's really going to let Bob go do this? And I know at the time in the timeline of the movie, they are kind of broken off or whatever, but he's just got done singing Donna this love song that he wrote for her and everything. And then Bob scoops him up. And I was like, that's fucked up. You're going to go to Mexico and just bang some hooker or sex worker. And, but he doesn't.
He doesn't.
And I forgot about that. I thought he actually did. And
wait, he doesn't?
No, he doesn't.
Do we know
that?
that?
Remember, he just gets drunk and
I know they don't show it, but he's at the
Well,
whorehouse,
if you pay
and then
attention-
he wakes up in the shed, and he doesn't even remember hardly what went on.
What Bob was saying, he didn't. He just got
Yeah.
Okay.
He got pretty drunk, but
He says he got brewed, screwed, and tattooed. Well, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, he didn't get the screw.
screwed, blued,
Or-
and tattooed.
Yeah, something like
or
that.
at least tattooed, and then he smacks him on the arm or whatever because he gets the
Flying guitar.
Richard Valenzuela and his flying guitar.
Flying guitar.
It's a cool tat.
All right, before we get too far, I want to go ahead and do quotes.
You're gonna need a bigger quote.
Because there's one here at the Mexican whorehouse that I thought was prime candidacy.
Well, do we want the taglines first, or are we doing quotes?
Yeah, were there any taglines, Jason? Give us the tagline.
Well, there was like 4, but 2 were basically a mix-up of the 2 before it. So I just took the 2 original. We got talent made him a star, fate made him a legend.
Okay.
That sounds pretty good. Born to poverty, destined for stardom, he lived the American dream.
Oh, no.
That's
Too
the
long.
Yeah, that's a little
That's
much.
the 2 we got. But
I'll
the
go with
other
the
ones
first
were
one.
basically just mixed the 2 together in different versions. That's all the other 2 were. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like the first one. I do like the star and then fate
It's
being
fitting.
the legend. It works great. But what we got for quotes?
All right, well, the quote that I wrote down, the first quote I wrote down, it smells like fish, but it tastes like chicken.
Oh, God.
Oh,
I looked at Jenny when that happened in the movie, and she had the most disgusted look on her face.
Much like
Hey,
now.
hey, I have one from the same scene. What do you think of the place? I said, it looks like a high school prom, but then Bob says, but this prom puts out.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
You got anything, Eric?
Yeah, I've got one where Richie says, "Yeah, well, I'm me." I think he's talking to Rosie, if I recall. She's talking about.
She's comparing him to Bob, right?
Comparing him to Bob.
Him
and
being
says,
home
"Yeah,
all
well,
the
I'm me,"
time
which
and
I-
taking care of his mom.
Yeah.
Right. Bob says something like "by the sweat of my balls" when he pulls out the weed in his pants.
Yes.
The mom at the Legion Hall, is that what it's called?
Yeah, the American Legion. Yeah.
Yeah. She says, "Did you find Bob?" And the guy says, "No." And she goes, "Did you look?" And he says, "No."
I got.
Look, man, I've never been to Mexico. I like that one. She had a girl. We named her Brenda.
That's a nice
She does make it-
Latino name.
Yeah, like she makes a pretty bold statement there because she's arguing with Richie and Bob. She had a girl. We named her Brenda.
Brenda. Oh,
yeah, that's all.
That's the first time you really see her like pissed off at Richie in this too.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I got one, and it's just it kind of ties into the fate of the movie. It says, "I'm gonna be a star, and stars don't fall from the sky."
Oh, yeah. A little on the nose. I think there's a lot of stuff that's a little too on the nose. A little subtlety would have made this a better movie for me. But.
Right. I think that's where like the musical performance stuff comes from too. Is there a lot of them are super on the nose, and I would love them to be a lot more just sort of chill. The one that I got here is when they're after all the stuff ensues here, he gets the tattoo one out there with the shaman.
Yeah, the medicine man guy. Yeah.
And he's speaking Spanish, and Richie doesn't know what he's saying, and Bob's translating all this stuff for him. But he's telling this story, and Bob's translating or whatever. But there's a line in it that I thought was really cool, and he says, "To live is to sleep, to die is to awaken," and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. That guy skins a real snake there.
Oh yeah,
Yes, he does.
That was
which you don't see anymore.
I got a real Natural Born Killers vibe off that.
Yeah, that
if
whole
anybody's
little
seen
scene.
Natural Born Killers, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Hey, weren't we talking about that earlier? But not about this movie.
Right.
But we won't talk about Venom 2. But let's see. Where I was going somewhere with that. Oh yeah, but I love that. I mean, with the whole rattlesnake thing, and he's picking. But Bob also mentions that he's been coming to this guy for years.
Yeah.
To talk to him about his problems. He's like his spiritual guide or something like that.
Right.
So I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. And he gives him a little talisman that's supposed to help him with his nightmares about the plane and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. So it shows that even though Bob is a dick, he's a rapist and everything else, he has some problems, and he was trying to find somebody to talk to about it.
Well, I mean that's part of what makes Bob interesting is that he's got layers. I mean,
Right.
he's got more layers than anyone in this movie.
He's like an
Yeah.
onion. He's got layers.
He's a violent alcoholic, but he's also a sympathetic character at the same time. He's the most fleshed out character in the film, really.
Right. I would venture to say this is just as much Bob's movie as it is Richie's.
I would agree.
I think he moves the story along for us, and we're watching Richie grow through all of this, but we're also watching Bob grow. We don't see much growth by the end of this, but I do like that you start to see a transformation with his character. Now, where it
Well,
goes
he gets
after
off the booze.
Yeah,
where it goes after that we don't know, but he does get off the booze for a while, and you see him with the kid.
Right.
At the end of the movie.
I don't know that I would use a rattlesnake rattle with the baby, because you're kind of teaching the kid like, oh, rattlesnake rattles are good. Go after. Oh, I hear a rattlesnake. Let's go grab it. You know.
You want to hear some?
Maybe not.
When I was a kid, some other kid told me, like, just kid gossip, I guess, but talking about snakes as kids, I remember vividly a kid telling me that if you ever see a rattlesnake, step on its tail because its brain is in its tail and you'll kill it. I'm so glad.
Whoa.
That is the dumbest shit I've ever
I did
heard.
not take that advice.
That kid was a cold son of a bitch telling you that.
Dude, if
Kids are dumb.
that is one innocent, if Josh would have listened, we would not be having the VHS files right now. Or he would be missing
Step
a
on
leg.
rattlesnake.
Well, I've never encountered a rattlesnake in my life, but I'm glad I didn't at this point, because I wouldn't have known how to actually kill it, because I don't know where the brain for the snake's at. It's in the tail, I guess.
Yeah,
Best part is you don't have to kill it. You can just walk away from it.
True.
that's true.
Unless it's like in your pants or something.
Did anybody think it was cringy that he called Donna kitten through the whole movie? I mean, it fits the time. I understand that.
Yeah.
But
those lines stick out.
Yeah.
They felt a little unnatural. I don't know. It's like a reminder that we're in the 50s.
Or that she can
Hey, don't forget we're in the 50s.
Or that she continues to call him high tone throughout the movie. When he says to call him high tone at the beginning and she just sticks with that. That's so bad.
Did they call him high tone?
It's like lumpy.
What did he do? Cut all the bass out of his mix or something? Is that why he's called high tone?
I don't know.
He's all mids and trebles on his guitar. I don't know. But I do like, I don't know how far we are ahead or whatever, but I like the fact that Bob, his manager, Bob Keen, however they could pronounce it, tells him that he needs to be on an American Bandstand, but it's out east and he's going to have to fly. And he kind of makes him go, because he tells him the car they're driving, he's like, basically everything goes good out there, the car is yours.
Right.
So he kind of like
Bribery
hey,
almost,
a
yeah.
little bribery there to get him to fly, and then he does fly. He doesn't die, but he's wearing the talisman.
And it could be conveyed as him just kind of like not wanting to fly, because at this time I think flying was still pretty skeptical. I mean, it was luxurious. I think we talked about that while we were watching.
Yeah, it was still a novel thing to
Right.
do. Not everybody flew.
But he's got this, this story of he was supposed to be at school today, this plane crashed, and I think that's what's driving his fear of flying in this. But I like when he originally tells him that they need to fly out somewhere for a show or whatever. Richie is just kind of like, he's holding his own with it, but he says, listen, man, I've got my reasons. Like, he doesn't want to divulge that information.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that they give him that little bit of a chip on his shoulder with that, because he's holding true to his feelings about something. But I mean, yeah,
I think they also wanted to show us there that, this wasn't his first, the plane crash was not his first time in a plane.
Right.
Like, I think that, the bandstand stuff, it's like, okay, well, he was flying. Like, we see him on a plane, he got to fly.
Yeah.
He didn't like it, but he did it.
Because I think the first time is they were going to fly up to San Francisco, because remember they were living in Southern California,
Right,
which
he
is
made him drive.
nothing but out to, I think, Philadelphia or New York is where they were going. I mean, dude, that's a hell of a drive.
Right.
So flying is the only way they could get out there. But it's cool. He's on American Bandstand. I like the little bit of video they have there because they actually see the real Dick Clark from back in the days doing the American Bandstand there. They didn't have an actor playing in.
And the performances of the other people were fun as well, I think. Like that whole...
Like the guy who plays Buddy Holly or even the
first show is Eddie Cochran and Jackie Wilson.
Yeah, the Jackie Wilson guy is really good.
Yeah, he was actually an art. The guy that plays him, what's his name? Howard Huntsberry. I think he was like an R&B singer, so he already had the chops.
And then of course Eddie Cochran was Brian Setzer.
Setzer.
But that scene where Bob sees Richie on TV in the bar and gets emotional, and it's just something about that translates well when he's like, "That's my brother," and that guy's like, "Yeah, right," you know.
And I'm your Irish cousin.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of conveyed very well about where Bob's at in his life and where Richie is in his. And
Bob's very conflicted. He's both
horribly
jealous and resentful, but also really proud and happy for his brother.
Right.
He gets back to the basement and he's drunk, of course, and he just tears all of his artwork. I mean, great artwork too. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, but I don't think they would have included the art stuff in there if there hadn't have been something true to life in that.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to like read up about Bob and see if he actually was into art or animation or anything like that. But I do like that we've seen that Bob is getting sober while Richie is gone, but that doesn't change the fact that he still has a huge chip on his shoulder. And this leads to a fight between him and Richie where he tears that talisman off of him. And that's kind of like, oh, the spell is broken.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Well, we're there where we're talking about, but dude, we can't pass up the freaking La Bamba scene at the show.
Yeah. I mean, that was another scene that was a lot like That Thing You Do for me. But yeah, I mean, that's the key scene of this whole movie. That's what we've been working up to. It's the name of the movie. It's what he got famous off of. I don't know if it was his biggest hit or not. But do we know if that was Richie Valens' biggest hit? Eric, you're the fact checker.
Mr. Google, let us know.
Well,
Mr. Eric.
On Spotify, it's the top song on his Spotify account.
Okay, but is it Los Lobos or is it Richie Valens?
No, it's Richie Valens. The second one is We Belong Together, and then third one would be Donna.
There you go. Well, there you go.
But dude,
based on Spotify, but that could be affected by the film. I don't know.
Dude, I love that. I mean,
Billboard
I know
charts
that's not Lou Diamond Phillips singing, but I love the whole music section. I mean, Los Lobos did a great job of recording the music for all of Richie Valens' parts.
And they're the band in
they're the band
in Tijuana as well. It's worth mentioning.
Down there in the prom, quote unquote. And but dude, I love that scene, and I love how they stick it here at the end of the movie too. When we get to that too, you go out on that, and I love that part, dude. I can't tell you how many times I got up with a broom or whatever, air guitar. I'm freaking Richie Valens. I'm rocking La Bamba out in the living room. So.
Did Jason do it?
Oh yes, I did.
Yes, he did.
Hell yeah, I did. Josh probably did it.
Oh yeah, I did.
See, there you go. This is Josh did it this week.
I have all kinds of stories I could tell about mimicking musicians when I was younger. Like I used to set pillows up on the couch and act like I was playing the drums to Billy Joel, and I used to think Prince was the coolest motherfucker in the world. I still think Prince is the coolest motherfucker in the world.
Josh used to think Rick Springfield was his dad.
I still think Rick Springfield.
Because that's all his mom would talk about is Rick Springfield. And
my mom was in love with Rick Springfield.
So,
but. So I mean, we get to the end of this, and I mean, they play it up so well of getting Richie to a point where he can afford to buy his mom a house and make life better for her, which is another play on where Bob just isn't quite good enough. You know, he did the same thing. He got them off the farm and got them into a nice place in California, quote unquote, nice place in California. And now Richie is overshadowing him here with, oh, well, I'm doing better than you now. Again, like just another thing to kind of, like
this scene could do for a little subtlety. Like I mentioned earlier, the mom's like, oh, Richie, you're the best. Yeah. And Bob's like standing right next to them, you know, Bob's like, Mom, no. You know, but yeah, Jason, would you?
Well, I was going to get to this part right here. I mentioned at the beginning of the whole podcast that there's some things about this that hit close to home for me growing up. That's why I think I love this movie. I mean, there's no thinking I do with the music wise, but there's also some personal aspects of that. We find out a lot of it is that Richie and Bob had a dad named Steve, but Bob wasn't Steve's son.
Yeah.
Richie was. So he always babied Richie and stuff like that. And this is where I said I can relate with Richie about the love of music and wanting to take care of his mom and his family, but also growing up in Bob's situation at this point of being a kid of a stepfather or thinking he was a father and not knowing that he's not your real dad until they tell you. I have been in those exact shoes as a kid, and it sucks. So I can relate to that with Bob, and it hits me hard every time I watch this movie. It chokes me up because I've been in that exact situation with an argument with a brother later about pretty much that shit of being treated like crap because you weren't his kid.
Right.
So that hit really close. I'm sorry to bring this somberness into the show, but
it's real.
But
and I mean, I'm sure that is incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And
that's where I said, I know Bob's a dick. He's a rapist. He's an asshole, but I understood him from that point, from when he says that. As I got older and watching La Bamba, I used to just enjoy it. And then you realize, like, oh my God, I was Bob. Maybe when Bob was a kid.
Sure. And that's how, that's could be a large reason why Bob ended up getting in trouble and, starting on that path of, depression and alcoholism,
drugs and everything else.
Yeah. And getting
raping women,
criminal activity and all this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, all these things are influence your life,
But it hits
and
hard
I really
every
do
time.
like that. I really do like that scene of him and Richie talking, and he's getting real bit out of shape, and he talks about Steve telling him that he wasn't his dad. I think that scene's awesome. I even like that he's supposed to be being, he's been on the wagon now for, I think they say 6 weeks or 6 months or something like that.
I think it was like a month.
And he drinks a beer, but they even go into because I always remembered that he was drinking beer in that scene, and I was like, well, wait, he's on the wagon. And then I like that they go into that in the next scene. He's like, I had one sip of beer tonight and it tastes like warm piss. You want it? Like, he plays that really well. And I like that they are able to convey all of that within this scene, and just how much this is a sibling rivalry in ways, but you can tell they still have that family love for one another, even though Bob is such an asshole and so bent out of shape, but
yeah, he's a sad character. I mean, ultimately, for all the bad he does, he's a sad character.
His sadness is what makes him the way he is, but it's also about the decisions you make in life to be that bad person and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I could have easily went down that road, but I made better decisions.
Absolutely.
So
sure.
But I think Eric is right where it cuts to this.
Thank you.
Where it cuts to the end here, and Richie is sick and he's homesick and he's calling Bob. That's another very nice moment.
It comes out of nowhere.
But it does. It comes right out of nowhere.
Give me, it's easy to, armchair quarterback here, but that means I think I know better than the filmmaker, Josh, because Josh doesn't know sports references. Anyway, just give me a montage of Ricky touring and just getting worn out.
Yeah.
A little montage.
Give me a quick montage of him going here, going there, just maybe kind of starting to get tired, just kind of to show that he's getting worn down.
I get what you're going
Instead
with
of
that.
just, you go from, he's like fine.
Yeah.
And then the very next scene, he looks like he is on death's door, when he makes this phone call, and you're just like, dude, what the hell happened? He was fine a minute ago.
This is our new category. Could this movie benefit from a montage?
That's a good one.
Movie, everybody needs a montage.
Even though it already had
I
one
needed
montage.
a montage. We've had montages. I needed one more. Just give me a 20-second montage of Ricky touring too much, getting tired.
They do
something. I don't know.
They do for a brief moment. They give you one little glimpse, and it's pertaining to something that we've already talked about, and it's food. If you listen when Richie comes back from New York for the party that they're having for him, he's like eating, and they're like, eat up or whatever, and he says, oh, I'm starving. They don't have food like this in New York. Which New York is supposed to be like the place to go for good food, and it's like, no, I want my home cooked Mexican food. Like,
Yeah, he wants some real home cooking, not at a restaurant.
Right.
So
I do like that scene with the home movie, and they're filming the home movie, and you can look on YouTube. They've got some home movies from the Valenzuelas or whatever.
And if you're watching that scene as they're going through that home movie, which Bob again is great in that little sequence with holding his collar up, but
and Rosie can't stand it.
But as they cut over to Richie at one point, there is an older lady sitting next to him on the couch, and that's actually Richie Valens' mom.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's cool. That's cool.
So
that's good.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's got to be weird for her to film that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But now we're at the winter party dance
Mm-hmm.
at the rock show with Buddy Holly, Big Bopper. I even noticed a couple other people on the back of this. Or no, that was the last show. But they're all on tour together, and you get to see Buddy Holly. Like I said, these people were synonymous with me growing up because they're from Texas. And I mean, Big Bopper really.
Where are you from, Jason?
Tejas.
I don't think I ever told people where Jason's from on this show. Jason, can you
Have
tell
y'all
us
ever told
where you
anybody
come
where I'm
from?
I don't know. Where am I at? I don't know. I'm lost now. But I mean, the Big Bopper was obviously a big deal around here. He grew up right down the road pretty much back in the day. So did he. But I've also heard a cool story about this during the homework for all this. I mean, they're on a tour. They had the tour bus. And I know you've seen it in other movies like Walk the Line, the Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey, which I think Gary Busey did a good job of playing Buddy Holly.
I haven't seen that movie.
That's actually pretty good. Because they actually touch on this part of this movie in the Buddy Holly movie too. But
well, naturally, I think you kind of have to.
Yeah, but you remember like in Walk the Line, they had like Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, all of them. That's how they toured back then. They all just hopped in a bus or a car and drove around together. Well, there was an instance at this story going on where we're leading it to after the show. Waylon Jennings was, I guess, on the bus. He's one of the musicians that was there that night. And him and Buddy Holly had a joke going back and forth. Says, I hope the bus breaks down again or like that. Well, Waylon Jennings had made a joke to saying, well, I hope your plane crashes.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read about that, and they said Waylon Jennings was asked about it over it, and he says, yeah, it's one of the not funny jokes I have had to live with the rest of my life.
When they were when this scene was playing out, I was actually in the back of my mind thinking, like, because there was the coin flip for who gets to take the plane and who gets to take the bus. And Richie got the quote unquote lucky.
He never won a coin toss
on the coin. He never won a coin toss. Now that brings me to my point here is he says first coin toss I ever won. I wonder if that was truthfully something that was said at that point. Like if the guy who took the bus and actually didn't get in a plane crash, like if he commented to someone like that's the last thing I heard Richie say to me, like something in my brain is just like, I wonder if that's really what Richie said last time this guy saw him. Like,
well, I did read that, the way it's presented in the movie is a little different because I guess in reality, the other guy had the spot on the plane and Richie wanted it.
Oh.
Whereas in the movie, they kind of play it like they're both up for this spot and they kind of have to fight for it kind of a thing. But I guess in reality, Richie like wanted the spot. And I think he actually suggested, let's flip a coin for it.
I do know they did not do the coin toss on the airstrip. They did it back at the club. Yeah. That was something.
So there was a coin toss.
There was a coin toss, but it did not happen out there on the airstrip like that.
What that's got to be one of the crazier coin tosses of history, right? I mean,
but
imagine being that other guy.
It's even eerie. They get on the plane, and then Buddy Holly turns around and says, "Hey, we're stars. We belong in the sky, or we don't fall from the sky." He says that same line. But even the takeoff, it's snowy and just into black. I mean, that plane disappears immediately, and you're like.
And apparently, the pilot was like 21. Wow. I think Buddy Holly was 22 or something.
Yeah, they were the older of, I think, some of
them. And, Richie's 17. I don't know how old the Big Bopper was, but yeah, you've got a pretty young guy flying this plane.
Yeah. A small little teeny tiny, like, I don't know how truthful that one is to what they actually flew in, but Jenny even made the comment. She's like, that's a teeny tiny ass plane.
I think it was like a 4-seater.
Yeah. If you're afraid of planes, like that's the last plane you want to
get on. Now, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that Richie's mom actually found out about this over the radio, or do you think she was notified? Because obviously they knew who the people were in the plane. So, like, I know it's the 50s, so maybe, you know, information doesn't travel as fast, but
They have telegrams.
I know. So that's why I'm asking. Like, do we think this was
And telephones.
played for drama for the movie that she finds out over a radio broadcast? Like, or even Bob. Like, I like Bob's response to it, but
Dude,
I mean, basically everybody finds out. Everybody's listening to the
his
radio.
manager Bob. Well, Donna didn't find out. One of the girls said, "Hey, Donna, sit down.
That's
I need
right.
to tell you something." You know,
I don't know, but as far as dramatically,
dude,
it works for the film. I mean, them finding out on the radio like that is pretty
I
brutal.
got chicken skin over here. Goosebumps every time I
Not
get to this part
my
of the movie.
Richie. Ugh.
Dude, when she, oh God, I was so choked. I choked up earlier watching this. I watched it today. Just gets to that part, and then the part we're about to get to. Chills, feels everything, man. It's hard. I mean, it's so hard. I think his mom, the lady who played, did a great job, and then Isai Morales did a
Oh, boy.
Isai, whatever. That part on the bridge.
yeah.
Tears, man.
And that they close on that with him just screaming Richie's name on that bridge is pretty impactful.
Yeah,
But then goes into La Bamba.
Yeah.
It's a little jarring.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe they wanted to. It is sad, but they also wanted to celebrate Richie's life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the intention there, putting the peak of the film, arguably the peak of his career or whatever, you know, that big performance, and we leave with that instead of just feeling like total shit, you know.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, I think another reason this movie impacted me and why it has stuck with me for so long is because it's really one of the first movies where I was following someone through this whole story, and at the end, they died. I didn't see a whole lot of that at this point. So I wasn't used to seeing my, you know, quote unquote hero of the movie being dispatched at the end. It was pretty sad. I remember this being one of the first movies that kind of emotionally affected me like that. Like, I was sad when I watched the movie and I found out, you know, Richie is not alive. He died, you know. I think that's another thing that contributed to me wanting the music and wanting my mom to buy me the tape and all of that, is because, like, I was affected by the fact that this guy that I just was completely, like, enamored by watching this movie isn't around anymore.
Yeah, his mom found out on the radio, and you found out watching the movie.
Yeah, 25 years later. So, but I mean, that really pretty much ties it up. They don't beat around the bush when they end this thing out. I mean, it's sad. He's 17 years old, just hit stardom, but we've seen so many people in the years after that have gone. It's really, you know, sad to think about it. And especially, like, he was 17, but you think about all of the musicians that we hold in very high regard: Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain. All of them died before they were 30 years old. 27. All of them that I just named died at 27.
Yeah, the 27 Club, yeah.
Like, did not even make it to their 30s. It just blows my mind to think about that sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you've got someone like Richie Valens, who was not even 20 years old, still a teenager. But
yeah, pretty tragic.
So,
man, I'm sad again.
Yeah.
I don't even watch it. Damn,
I'm sad. I need to
Josh, play the La Bamba
pick
clip.
myself
Do we
up.
have a La Bamba
all right,
clip?
well, let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Why?
I'm going to start this week, and I'm going to go backwards.
Oh.
My ugly is Lou Diamond Phillips' emotional singing to Donna. And most notably when he's singing in the basement with Bob. I forgot what the song is that he's recording, but his emotional singing in that scene, it was hard to watch. I'm sorry. The bad is the character, or Bob Morales. Well, his name was Morales in real life.
Yes.
Bob Morales is terrible. I don't know where he went after this, but if I'm just, kind of singling out what I'm seeing within the movie I'm watching, Bob is horrendous. And I don't really get closure on where his life path has led him. So that makes me just think that he continued down a terrible path. I could be completely wrong there, but he does some pretty heinous shit in this movie. It makes me not want to be on his side at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads me to my good, which is Bob. The actor that plays Bob, Isai Morales, is phenomenal in this movie. I'm sorry. Like, if you're putting him against Lou Diamond Phillips in this movie, he beats Lou Diamond Phillips out of the park, in my opinion. Whereas I said earlier, this is just as much Bob's story as it is Richie's. I think his performance kind of overshadows Lou Diamond Phillips' Richie's performance. So
I think you could say that maybe because you're talking about somebody who tragically died, you don't want to get into too much of their negative attributes.
True.
I mean, Richie is treated very much like a saint in this film for the most part.
Right.
And unfortunately, that makes for a little less of an interesting character,
So I think Bob being in the movie really gives this movie a good balance. So therefore, Bob is my bad part of this movie, and he's also the good part for me. So.
Hey,
But that's mine.
I want to give you a real quick thing about Bob. I just looked him up while we're doing. Well, he passed away in 2018 at the age of 81, so he did live a long life. But it says he went to Watsonville and worked at a rehabilitation center in Santa Cruz, where he became a popular figure and met his future wife in 1975 there. So he
didn't marry Rosie?
No, he straightened up, I guess. And they said even till the day he died, he had a mohawk.
Wow.
At 80-something years old, he rocked the mohawk. So I thought that's pretty cool. They even got a picture of him here. He's wearing a leather jacket with a cowboy hat, and he has a mohawk.
Well, again, if I'm just singling out what they give me in La Bamba, Bob's a terrible person.
So, but just in case we want to know about Bob. Okay. Who's next?
Thank you.
No disrespect to the real Bob Morales.
Yeah.
So who's
Rest
next?
in peace, man.
Jenny, you want to go or?
Sure. The good is Richie's mom. I really love her.
Yeah.
I think it's a good performance. She's so supportive. Just really nice to see a mom in a biopic that's like a nice mom. A lot of times when you get into famous people's backstories, it's a very dark backstory, and not that his isn't rough.
Namely, I, Tanya.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you deal with like a showbiz mom, you run into some problems.
Selena's mom was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know very much about Selena.
I love that movie. You gotta listen to J-Lo.
Haven't seen that movie.
It's good.
It's good, man. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Jenny.
The bad is all the lip syncing, just not actually playing the music. And I'm gonna say, I feel like some of this movie on this watch feels a little overacted.
You mean screaming Richie to the skies
yeah,
is overacted?
and I think Bob in particular goes a little bit too extra all the time.
But he never.
Bob is extra,
But he
man.
never goes full Nick Cage.
True.
Never.
Very true.
Never goes
Who
full Nick
can?
Cage. That's how you go extra. Is Nick Cage. So
True.
sorry.
And the ugly, one of our favorites from
The 80s.
olden times, rape. I mean, if this movie is true, and I don't know why you would make up that somebody was raped if they weren't raped. Bob's a rapist. And he's dead now.
Bob is a rapist.
And I'm sure the statute of limitations ran out on him.
Yeah.
But for whatever turning his life around he did, he's, according to this, a rapist.
You have a point.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that. Well, I'll just get into mine if that's okay.
Go for it.
Rocket Eric.
Are you ready? Because I'll just say my ugly is also the rapey stuff. The conversation he has where he says, "I basically have to rape her to have sex." It's like,
yeah, that's jarring.
no, there's no basically, bud. Like that you're
hello.
You're literally saying that you're raping her on the regular. Yeah. It's disgusting. And not good. Rape is bad. Period. So that was my ugly. My bad is the weird tonal shift at the end and just some of the overly broad, like the framing with the dream, and it's just like really a little too aggressive hammering with the plain stuff. And then my good is the performances, particularly like we said, Bob, but I think everyone did well. I like everybody in this movie. All the actors.
I think the actress who plays Donna is a little stiff.
She's the worst.
Yeah.
Of the film. Yeah, I agree. She doesn't bring much, and that was
even Mexican Ed did better.
Mexican Ed's great.
I liked Mexican Ed.
I think you just like saying Mexican Ed, Jason.
There you go.
I like that Mexican Ed told Bob to chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He told him, "Hey, you need to work out your problems. We're going home." And he kind of did. He tried to calm the situation down, but it didn't help. Oh, is it me?
Sometimes you can't help.
Oh, so are we all going back?
It's you, buddy.
Are we going backwards tonight? Okay, we're going. Everybody's going back. All right.
I didn't go backwards.
Well, no, Jenny and Eric didn't go backwards, but I did.
I did go back.
Oh, okay.
Jenny got out of.
Were you listening to me?
I'll just be the only one who does it right.
Is
That's
Eric
okay.
here?
Josh,
can you hear Eric?
Josh always tunes out when I'm
Is
talking.
Eric talking?
I thought I thought
Eric.
I fired Eric.
Eric.
Is this thing on?
Eric.
Testing.
Well, I'll go backwards too because I did hear Eric go backwards. So there you go, Eric. The ugly
copier
is rape. Bob's a rapist. Sorry.
We're very anti-rape on this show.
Yes, I'm
pretty strong.
I hope a lot of
about it.
people are anti-rape
Yeah,
who listen to this show.
I think everybody should be anti-rape.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah,
I agree. I think we should all get on board.
If there's anything good to be anti about, it's rape.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, but yeah, I'm pushing rape for number one on the anti. So, and I mean, I know it's Bob, like you said, we don't know if that is exactly true or if it was just Hollywood putting it in there. So we can't judge the real Bob that way. So we don't know. So
I'd be pretty mad if Hollywood made a biopic about my brother and
made him a rapist.
Showed me being a rapist.
Yeah. So, but
And
Richie
I
was
wasn't
dead.
one.
So I don't know. But bad, yeah. As with Josh, the vocals were not matching with the performances and stuff, and even some of the guitar stuff. I'm going to bring it up with the guitar stuff because there's when he's playing La Bamba, I'm like, dude, why are you down here on the 17th fret when the whole song is played on three chords up here? So
you can tell there's
and he goes crazy with that performance. I mean, he's slinging it back and forth, dude. I thought he was in a freaking like punk band at one point the way he was jumping around. So
well, the more he shakes the guitar, the better because then you can't see what he's doing.
It's the vibrato. It's that Zakk Wylde vibrato. You got to shake the guitar to get that sound out of it. But my good is, I mean, I liked. Have we figured out how to pronounce his name yet?
Esai Morales.
Esai Morales. We're sorry, sir. You're a great actor. His acting, Bob. I know Jenny said I love the acting of Bob. I mean, he goes up, down, left, right, crossways, over the hill, down through the valley, and he nails it. I love the screaming of Richie at the end. Like I said, that's a tearjerker moment every time when he's screaming, and then you have the little video thing of him and Richie running up the hill together. In the memories, going to the theater to watch this with my mom and having that, and every time I see it, that's what I think of. And I wanted to be that little kid that wanted to buy my mom a house and be a rock star and do that for her. So, I mean, I love it. I love that it was him trying to live the American dream. He came from nothing to where he was, and he was gone too fast. It's sad, but that's my good. So.
All right, so that's our discussion about La Bamba. Are we going rent it, forget it, or buy it? Jenny?
I'm going to say rent it, but only if you have an interest in Richie Valens and 1950s music and culture. I remember this movie very fondly from childhood, but on this watch, unlike Jason, it really didn't hold that magic for me. It felt like Josh was like, this was a great movie. This is a good movie. In my opinion, this is not a great movie. And maybe it's because I've seen better biopics since then, because it's been a while since I've seen this one. It just didn't hit my heart quite like it usually does this time.
I can understand that. And let's make no bones about it. That Thing You Do is a better movie.
Yes. Thank you.
I agree with you 100% there. It's just, I had no idea who Richie Valens was when I saw this movie as a kid. It was just a movie that left an impression on me. And I was afraid coming into watching it now for a podcast where we're going to discuss a movie, if it would really kind of stand up or if I would see the flaws within it. And when I said that it was a great movie, I just feel like it still kind of holds the test of time for me. Honestly, I don't see it as dated as The Neverending Story. I had more issues with The Neverending Story than I did with watching this again. Now, is the storytelling a little clunky? Yes, I can see things like that in it, but I thought the movie still held up, and I didn't think it was something that I would have the nostalgia for as a kid and didn't like as an adult. So obviously I own it. It's in my collection. But I mean, yes, Jenny makes a good point. If you're interested in Richie Valens, this is a great movie to watch to learn about Richie Valens. But if you don't have any interest in that, you could totally skip it. I absolutely don't think it's something that's required viewing. But it's a good movie if you're looking for some entertainment.
Rent it.
All right. Jason?
Screw you guys. Own this bitch. It's a great movie. And it's not even the fact that just Richie Valens. If you just are interested in the history of rock and roll, this is a significant event of Richie Valens and what happens with Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper. Yeah. And there's even other biopic movies that took place way for us. Like I recommended the Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey. That's a great. It also ties into this pretty much. But if you're just into that, go buy it, watch it, and see if you can relate to some of the characters in this movie. Like I have grown up, and I definitely own it.
We did not point this out, and I feel like it would be a disservice to this movie if we didn't. But the use of Sleepwalk in this movie, the music at the beginning and the end and whatnot is perfect for this movie.
I did like that as well.
But that'll do it for La Bamba for this week. And now we're going to go to the Wheel of Movies. Can everybody see the wheel and see what we're dealing with here?
No.
There ain't that many movies on it.
I've taken some off.
Okay, man, that's really spinning.
I'm just spinning the hell out of it to appease you guys, so that way it makes a good revolution.
Okay, I want to be able to see too. I want to make sure you don't hit stop.
I'm not hitting stop. And okay, spinning.
Oh my God!
Yes!
I've been waiting for this one. So much.
I was just thinking earlier, when are we going to do Dirty Dancing?
We're doing it next week, god damn it.
Yes.
What year did Dirty Dancing come out?
1987.
I'll give you one guess.
Did it come out in 1987? That's what I was thinking. I thought it was 87 or 88, something like that.
Hey, I'm going to tell you guys something. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I have not seen this all the way through.
Wow.
Dude!
Yeah. It's just a hole in my movie watching.
Okay.
So
this is going to be fun.
How
I'm
has
so
Kayla
excited
let this happen?
Well, she brought it up actually recently, and I said, I'm sure we'll get to it sooner than later. Yes. So here we are.
This is going to open some fun conversation for me. I'm not going to get into it now. We'll just have to wait till we get to the next episode. But next episode, tune in. We will be talking about Dirty Dancing. We might as well have just called this whole section we're doing now the 1987 era, because All these damn movies are from 1987.
Should we all pitch in to help Eric with Back in Time next week? Because the pickings are very slim at this point.
No, it's a whole year. I got all kinds of stuff to.
I'm sure he'll come up with some more dad jokes for us.
Well, he is a dad.
I don't feel like you guys respect my jokes enough.
I love dad jokes.
I do.
I'd buy that for $1.
No, no.
Yeah, I love that show.
All right, that'll do it for us this time. We will be back next week to talk Dirty Dancing with you all. Until then, be kind.
Rewind!
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, get the fuck out.
It's over.
You've been listening to the VHS Files Podcast.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe and drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast.
It was fun.
Send your questions, comments, and movie suggestions to vhsfilespodcast@gmail.com.
These single fucks, you've seen one too many movies.
Don't you blame the movies!
Follow us on all social media outlets at VHS Files Podcast.
Movies don't create psychos.
Check out our YouTube channel for more content.
Movies make psychos more creative.
Thanks for listening.
Did you guys see the sequel to this that was about Bob? It's called What About Bob?
I am not editing dog barks out of a fucking show again.
We're just going to wait till they decide to stop barking? Is that the plan? Okay.
Shut up!
Did we get that recorded? Shut up! Hey, he's barking too.
Yeah.
Daddy said bark more.
Bark, 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 bark. But
The little perverts are spying on everybody.
Yeah.
What a dork.